So it's one of those things that is endemic, and across many different institutions, this kind of problem exists. And in today's world of social media and user content, this is kind of strange, right? So this is one of those early things that we wanted to do gamification, like games. It's not gamification wasn't a term when we started this. We wanted to do games per se, and 3D games, multiplayer games, virtual worlds, all the whole enchilada, right? This typically, like I was saying in the morning, you go to a school and you say you can do games. They want everything. They want every kind of game. They want Angry Birds. They also want World of Warcraft. They also want, and there's no money for it whatsoever. So we came up with this concept. What if we could build a tool and let them build beautiful looking games without having to actually do any development? So what if we didn't really? So we took away that, abstracted this whole sort of thing of game development from the finished product. What if they give tools in the hands of people instead of giving them content? So that's the core idea. There are similar platforms out there, the Second Life, etc. So I'm not going to cover this part. This is obviously. I'll show you some stuff. You want to come to the video?
Which video?
Yeah. I'm going to show you some of the things that students have built. Okay, so this is.
What's the context of this project?
Okay, so the context is it's actually games in a school. In a school that does a large proportion of the teaching and learning through games. Okay, and by a large proportion, I really mean like large. Across pretty much all subjects, the whole. It's not about 150 students or 200 students. We're talking about 1,600 students, everybody in the school. I'm not talking about 3 teachers or 4 teachers using it. I'm talking about like 40 teachers using it. So this is Canberra Primary School, this is Fisher School, this is Sambhav, and they have actually adopted games in a very, very.
So they've already adopted the games you were talking about it, right? So this will be a shift from the current games that they're using to the new set of games that will be.
No. We built the whole system around the school.
Oh.
This was originally it was co-authored with the school in a way.
Okay. So even the current games are actually 3D Hiving games.
Yeah, all the games that you will see, all the content that you will see is actually made by students, made by teachers. None of the stuff that we are showing. Actually, start with the rainforest video. So this is a. This is a kind of a podcast which is made by a student in the learning lab. So the school has a pretty fancy lab, which is like the experiential lab. It has a projection all around, and it does many types of virtual worlds and things like that. We built the tool that let the teachers build the rainforest. So the rainforest that you saw inside, the teachers actually were able to sort of reorganize it. We built in the artists and there's the hard algorithms and stuff like that. They were able to put it together and make a forest. And then they were able to embed content into that forest. And then they built a lesson around it, and then the students went and saw that. And then this is a student making a video from this content that they experienced. There's another group of students that's made another in a different context in the same lab. Okay, just go there. Try that. Teaser video that was made by the students to sort of kind of invite their parents to the lab, to the school basically, to come see an open house there. these are just a couple of examples. There's a lot more. There's a lot of content that the school has. Unfortunately, we don't have, this is stuff that's on YouTube. We don't have the rights from the economic care to share it. We're still waiting for the official white papers to be released. Only then we'll get pictures and videos that we can actually share with people like that. Okay, let's go back to the presentation.
How much time does it take them to create?
Okay. So it depends. There are many different ways in which the school uses this. So you guys are Singaporean students? You studied here in Singapore, primary school, secondary school, so you know your CCA, right? So there's an Infocom Club CCA, which is a computer science club. And so the kids of the Infocom Club, they make this, I think, I don't know, how many weeks do you have CCA? Like in a typical semester, they have maybe? Once or twice a week. So those kids, the CCA kids do this very often. Kids who are not CCA kids, basically that depends on the teacher. The teacher may give you a project, make a game on the deforestation, make a game or something like that. So that depends on which teacher is using in what context. So I'm going to spare you guys these things. Like you already know all this. Okay.
Can you just go back? Just
Okay, so
other than the previous one.
Why do you want games in education? Actually, there is many pedagogies. Yeah, many pedagogies that translate into game-based learning, and these are just it's like a smattering. There's many more, and there's many concepts, very high deep learning concepts. Also, you know, whether you can think about learner-led learning, or you want to talk about specialized learning needs or whatever, you can go by the Harvard Gardner competencies model. You can pretty much take any approach, and games can sort of sneak in. In fact, my most extreme case has been this. This teacher was like, very happy when she sort of saw games, and she was not used to games, but she said, if I make a good game, the students will play it. They say, yeah, they'll get really engaged with what's happening. Yes. So this is a good way to deliver instructivist education. So yes, it's a good way to deliver instructivist education, if that's what you're thinking about. But
so the 21st century skills part, is there a mechanism to monitor how these skills are developed?
Yes. So there are several mechanics. Okay, so Hiving approach actually is it's an overarching approach. Like I said, it's not just about playing the game in the classroom. Playing the game in the classroom literally becomes incidental. In fact, in our approach with Canada, the one that really works is that game-based learning itself is incidental. The point of the whole exercise is not games. Like as you were saying earlier in the morning, like the point of the exercise is engagement. How do we get more engagement? How do we get the kids to be happier? How can they be appreciating the teacher more? That is the aim. Right? And so it's the games themselves are not the end goal as such. So engagement is the goal. So for 21st century skills, what we do is basically all the tools track all the matrices of everything that you do.
Okay.
So obviously the system doesn't know what the system doesn't know. So if you talk to your friend about a project and you just talk to them, the system won't know it.
So when you design the game, you have to also use the current competency mapping.
Okay. There's collaborative there also. There's peer review also. There's a whole bunch of other things inside there.
There's a big push for it in North America, right?
Yeah. Yeah, what is surprising is in the amount of stuff that's happening in Singapore, the duration in which Singapore has actually been doing this is mind-boggling. Like seriously, America I think is catching up as far as obviously one of the things is Singapore is such a small place. 400 schools. That's all the schools in Singapore. And all the public schools in Singapore is 400. So for MOE to adopt something, it's extremely easy. America has 92,000 schools. Just if you look at only the public schools, right? If you go to India, I don't know, you will have millions. 2.5 lakhs. Yeah. Just imagine. Right? Okay. So when you start talking about games, there are two approaches. Typically, people talk about games, and this is where we are sort of talking about why Hiving is different from the game-based concept. There is a strong inclination. In fact, almost there is. I think a very large amount of research that shows that pretty much any game is good. Somebody was saying earlier that games are bad for you, games make you dumb. There is real research to prove that even if you play a typical game, 15 minutes a day, every day, the amount of prefrontal cortex mass that you have in your brain, which is the part of the brain that actually is responsible for higher critical thinking, will increase. So if you play games on a regular basis, you're going to have more brains. It's the opposite of getting dumber.
There's also controversial studies, especially popular in the BBC, which prove them wrong as well, so it's not yet settled.
Yes, it's not a settled thing, but there's lots of research to show that there is this.
No, I'd like it if it's true, that's what the thing is, right? So.
Yeah. So I just went too forward. Okay. This is the problem with a gamer mouse. Okay, so these are the things that we talk about. Most game-based learning is really looking at engagement. Talking about how to build better engagement. So, and we're not talking about just engagement. We're talking about the next point the next point also. How can we sort of get a more pervasive use in the community? That's the concept. I think that's the goal that you're all going for. Everybody is going for that idea. If we can get a wider base of people using it, talking about it, and so this has to be more than one way in which it can be used, then there is a whole sort of world of possibilities that open up. And I think one of the most important things that we're talking about is contextualization. And this is extremely important. And one of the things you were talking about, and I sort of kind of sense that you have this in your system, but this is one of those things that we think is extremely important, is that you should be able to use the same sort of core set of competencies that the game builds in many learning situations. So you have one game that you built, say, for Chinese language learning, and you can definitely use that for Chinese language learning. But it might be another interesting way it might be interesting to use that game for something like team building. Suppose if you pair non-native Chinese speakers with Chinese speakers, and what happens then when they start playing the game together? Is there some sort of team building? Is there social collaboration? Is there cooperation and other such things? Mathematics games are interesting because it's not just yes, you can play a mathematics game and have fun playing math, but what about the stuff that goes around it? So what about, can I actually discuss it with my friends and sort of discover better strategies in which can help us perform better? And that kind of collaboration, can I document it? Can I write an essay on my math game experience? And if I can, so wouldn't that become language learning? There's contextualization that's also important, and that can be extremely powerful as well. So I'm going to skip this part as well. Okay. I think one of the things that we are looking at and that we find extremely interesting, some of the things that have really worked for Canberra are this whole concept of having a community of community. The way that it works is that it isn't one teacher that makes a game. It's usually a group of teachers that collaborate and make a game. And very often this game, as it's getting made, has multiple learning outcomes built into it. So it's not just about me building a game for a specific topic. It is a game that actually goes across several topics. So I might have the civics and citizenship education teacher working with the English language teacher, working with a history teacher, a science teacher, and they may be actually collaborating on something which can be used in all their disciplines and therefore is richer for it, right? But building the games, again, is one aspect. Sharing it with other teachers, finding other uses for it is another aspect. Getting students to build games is an entirely new avenue for learning. One of the things that we've seen is that the kids are more engaged in making games than playing games, right? If you can get them to this concept where, here you have the tools, make these games, then we see that even games, children who are not very fond of playing games themselves, and in Singapore there's a very large community, but it's in Canberra is a primary school. There is a monster at the end of P6, it's called PSLE. Singaporean students are very scared of PSLE. Primary school leaving examination. Okay, before PSLE you have streaming. It's a very controversial area. So there is streaming, so you have abilities students and non-ability students, and you have PSLE. After PSLE, you may be given a good school or not so great school. So you have to sort of schools are selective about who they take up. Even when you go in, depending on the program, you may get like a 4-year program or a 5-year program. You may be able to go to junior college, or you may have to sort of go to ITP or Polytechnic. There's like a whole branch of stuff that happens after P6. Like P6 is, where sort of innocence ends in Singapore. So there's a lot of pressure on kids, primary school kids in Singapore. And what we've seen is that given a chance, and so a lot of students don't want to play games. They have this sort of aversion. You give a child a game and they're like, my grades will suffer. Like, that's the concept, the consensus. Parents don't allow it. Parents sort of control it very strongly, and things like that. So, but if you tell them, listen, you're not going to play the game. It's not important to play the game. You make the game, you can make other people play. That's really cool. So that they like to do that. And there's a lot of transfer learning that happens when you're trying to create content. In fact, media creation in itself is a very powerful pedagogy. Making a game is, I think an extreme end of the spectrum. But even making a PowerPoint makes you learn a lot about the subject. And if you do podcasts and videos and stuff like that, that's also already a very big learning exercise. Most of the time in physical working environments, real working environments, that's what we're doing. Right? We're trying to assemble knowledge.
Are these extra skills a part of how the child is evaluated in school?
Yes. 21st century skills in Singapore is actually a pretty big topic.
And it counts for their final grade?
Well, okay, so yes and no. And these guys will be better equipped to answer. I don't know, do you get any benefit of being doing well in your CCA, or is that just negative motivation? Do you have advantages of being good at CCA?
Yeah. What is it? What are the advantages?
They allow you to subtract 2 points for O-level, like you can get to 2 points in your score.
Oh, okay.
And so like boost your portfolio.
And for your higher education admissions, etc., these grades count, or do they only take academic marks?
Are you talking about the polytechnic level?
Yeah.
Polytechnic, they don't care what
They don't really care. Okay. Because
company will look at your GPA, so like your experience.
they look at that as well.
In companies,
Because 3 years back, India introduced, CBSE board of India introduced a system called CCE. They modeled on similar lines. So it's continuous and comprehensive evaluation. So far, only academic marks used to be there. Used to get grades for drawing, blah blah, etc., which nobody used to actually care, neither student, nor parent, nor teacher. Now, what they made is out of your any grade point which gets calculated, 60% of it comes from your academic subjects. 40% of your final grade that comes on your marks card for all future purpose actually comes from whole range of co-curricular skills and some of the 21st century skills. And obviously, it's created a huge uproar.
Yeah.
No schools are equipped with it, and so law passed, and then schools try to do it in different ways. Interestingly, what it's done is it's shaken up the system a bit, so schools are slightly more open to considering newer methods of valuation.
This is a common theme that I've seen across the globe. Everywhere, governments and institutions want to do 21st century education. And when you ask a teacher, what is your institute giving you in terms of a learning package to sort of deliver that 21st century in the classroom? There is nothing. that nobody actually, I don't know. Literally, there are even different definitions. In fact, every sector has, Singapore has its own definition of what 21st century is.
People know that there's a CCE format, but you are a teacher, they don't know anything about it.
How much training do you have to do for the teacher for creating the game?
Okay, so the workshop itself, the actual workshop, our actual hands-on workshop is about an hour and a half. And then of that hour and a half, about 45 minutes goes into introducing games. So we spend about 45 minutes introducing them to this whole world of what games are. Most of the student teachers don't have any idea. And then it's about 45 minutes trying to get used
That's
to
it? So in 45 minutes you're up and running to create a game?
Yes, very, very simple. I think maybe if you have time, just go through that because we have some. This is something we've seen a lot. We see, the P6 students create for P3. So primary 6 students actually create games that P3 students create. They use. We also have had a couple of cases where students from secondary schools, this is separate in Singapore, separate campuses altogether, have created games that primary school students have made. So a group of students from Temasek Junior College actually created a game for time management for primary school students, and it was played in class by the primary school students, and that was project work for the secondary school students. Subsequently, after the Tamil Junior College students did this, we've had Raffles Institution students also do this, and Pachav also had a go at this. And we were actually trying to sort of encourage this more, kind of inter-school collaboration kind of thing.
How's the parental reaction to giving to this parental reaction?
Okay, so again, in Singapore, you have to sort of keep parents very. There is a term in Singapore called kiasu. And the most popular learning portal in Singapore is the kiasu parent, right? they do, kiasu means, afraid of losing, yeah.
Oh.
Well, that's a polite way of saying that. I've heard actually more. So, you actually have to sort of, so what, those things that I was showing you, those videos were actually part of the school's outreach program. So they have open houses and they call their parents in. And then the kids show them what they're doing, how they're learning and things like that. That's on one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum, all that would be crap. No parent would care about it if CPS wasn't scoring well academically. So they have over almost 50+% of their students all A's and A+. Plus they have 100% passing cohort. And plus they have the highest, for 2-3 years I think they have had the largest number of students who were taken up by Raffles Institution. So the Raffles Institution is like a very, it's like the
I think
big shot school.
Partnered with them recently? Raffles or Raffles? Is there something
No,
called
yeah, Raffles, that's different.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, that's different. Raffles Institution is a private, it's a private school. It's supposed to be the best school, one of the best schools in Singapore. And the whole concept of this is to have multiple simultaneous developments at the same time. I think one of the things that we sort of are very conscious about is that there isn't budget, there isn't resources, there isn't. So if you do lots of small little gamelets, this is why I really liked your concept of that math thing. It's a small little thing, but it's fun and it illustrates the concept very, very well. This is what I think is needed more. You need to do small things, and you need to do many of these things. And it's not, it shouldn't be coming from one person, it should be coming from many different people, so there are many different ideas. And you can refine them over time. So again, one of the things that our platform really encourages, we actually don't hold, even though we make all the graphics, we've made all the tools, we've done all the programming, and we've made, distributed the tools and all of those things, we do workshops and stuff like that, we don't claim any IP for anything that the students create. We actually have, it's not open source, but we sort of explicitly say the intellectual property of whatever has been created on here belongs to whoever's created it. So
They're free to share it.
They're free to share it, they're free to distribute it, and things like that. Okay, so the idea here is to blend critical thinking, collaborative learning, and game-based learning. So it's all three together. It's, and this is, I think, the most important. I think every group of students that come into school brings a whole bunch of new. There's obviously there's a standard set of learning needs that all students have. But every student that comes into the school has a unique perspective, life perspective. It's actually bringing something rich to the school. So if school can have never-ending content, like literally live media that's actually owned by the school and created by the students themselves, I think the school will be much richer. And over time, they will be able to polish that content and have a very large and rich library. This is already being done to some extent, but there wasn't any clear sort of platform for it yet. So in 3D Hive, we allow students not only to share, create games, but because in the games themselves, there are full-fledged 3D browsers. So they can actually make, in the game, they can be pictures or videos and stuff like that. So they can even create those and they can share those with other people as well. So there's all kinds of media, right up to games, that can be embedded into these gamelets or games that they create, virtual worlds that they create. I think it's extremely important. Each learning process has to build into another learning process. So it's not sufficient to have, you play a game, there's learning there. So, okay, I'll give an example of a way in which they teach play and filter in So in prey and predator, it's a topic in science curriculum in primary school here. And I think it's in P5, P4, P5. And it's basically talking about animal adaptations, behavioral adaptations or structural adaptations and stuff like that. And environments, different habitats, how they live. So what these people did is the teachers actually built this game, which is about 6 groups of animals, 3 herds of herbivores and 3 packs of predators. The herbivores are deer, zebras, and because of the fact that we actually built a library, they didn't have any choice, they took moose. There was no wildebeest. We don't have wildebeest in our library. So they have moose, deer, and zebras in the same plane. And they have lions, cheetahs, and hyenas as the carnivore animals. And it's a game that means you can only play for 5 minutes. What you're trying to do is you're trying to conserve energy by getting food. Right? That's what each animal is trying to do. And each team has a target that they're trying to meet. Now what happens is, the gamelet is actually about 5 minutes. It takes 5 minutes for any team of students, a classroom of 40, 5 teams, 6 teams, sorry. For each team to finish, it takes about 5 minutes to get there. And it's competitive, so only any one team can win. And so because it's a 5-minute game, students can play it about 5-6 times in a typical 1 hour class. What happens is, students play this game, then teacher brings up the slide and shows them, how do deer behave. It's a herd, not single individual. The first time the students play, every deer is running off and like, I may be a zebra, but I want to go and kill the lion, right? And I've seen things like, there are gangs of, moose and deer having a sort of a war, while both of them die and the lions just come and eat anything they want. The lions, instead of trying to eat the herbivores, they're going to attack the cheetahs. So the game starts, it's chaos. 40 kids just doing whatever they want to do. Anybody wins, it's by random chance. What happens there next is the teacher actually comes up the PowerPoint, starts talking about animal adaptations, behavioral adaptations, etc. Suddenly kids are like, aha. Next time they have that much improvement, right? But still, they're still struggling with a lot of the tools. They're still trying to figure out what's going on. It's a much better session, but it's still not perfect. So now the teacher starts talking about strategies and collaboration and conversations and cooperation, and then the teacher actually hands them slates. It's not high-tech slates, it's like literally slates with markers, right? And then they are sort of making a plan and things like that. Then they take the plan, they communicate with the people, then they play again. Obviously this time around they're really, really good, there's a lot of competition. Then the teacher says, okay, now we're going to have some group discussion, question and answer sessions, and if we have time, we may play another game. And at that point, it's like, oh no, we won't play. Like all the kids are really, really excited and things like that. It's a lot of enthusiasm, engagement in the class. They do their whatever, the rest of the lesson, teacher talks about things and things like that. Kids are discussing it, kids are very participative, they've already become vocal. This is very unique. In Singapore, kids don't talk. You see in Singapore, people don't, you ask them a question, how many people are teachers? In a room full of teachers, nobody raises their hand. How many of you are human beings? Nobody raises their hand. Right? It doesn't work. That is why all the questions were coming through the system there. So basically the idea is,
classroom?
Huh?
Use clickers in classrooms.
No, but this actually works. Once you sort of started them thinking, it's sort of like playground mentality. The fact that you actually played a couple of games in the class and it was team-based and it was boisterous and things like that, already sort of helps diffuse the tension in the class. And that really goes, this is what I'm going to say, every learning process bleeds into another learning process. So the fact that you had a game in the class makes your class more participative, even in the non-game based learning activity. And these are some of those things that we've actually seen. And this sort of also kind of leads to also deep 21st century skills. So we're trying to catch a lot of metrics on how that works. We are doing, amongst other things, we're doing a lot of action research. So one of the things that Canberra does very often is that they have, so they get groups of teachers, again, this is the benefit of having groups of teachers work together. So the group of teachers decide, okay, we want to investigate the efficacy of using games. And what they'll do is that 2 classes will use games and 2 classes will not use games. And they deliver the same curriculum. The classes that are not using games can use whatever they want. So they can use videos or pictures or whatever. And then they have, longitudinal assessments. So they have things like, okay, after a week, how many people remember the topic? After 2 weeks, how many people remember the topic? And they also do sort of qualitative in terms of the kids who know how to play games or who play games often, what is the performance in the game, outside the game, the kids, and all of those things they do. So it's a pretty holistic approach to games in the classroom. It's a very simple process. In fact, Hiving in itself, I don't think it requires games per se. Any kind of media will do. The idea is that the teacher organizes the class into teams. Teams discuss and decide the roles that they're going to play. They come up with a concept or objective for what they're going to do together as a team. They collect media to create that media. They develop it, figure out how to present it. Then they present it to their peers, and there is critique and review. And that helps in refining it. And basically, it adds to the library in the school, and it's exposed to other students. Other students can pick it up. And, it's contrary to what you typically expect. It's that Ken Livingston model. It's really like this. This is a question. There is an answer. The answer is in this book, and you may not see the book. Right? It's contrary to that. The idea is share it with other people. You have the answer. Share it with other people. Let them also experience. So I think it works best if you're creating multi-layered content. This is one of the things that we've really seen. It has to be a lot of crowdsourcing, and the emphasis has to be in iteration. And even the teachers that start using it in the class have to realize that the first time they will build it and use it in class may not be perfect. So you need to have that sort of comfort level of knowing that I'm going to play this, it's going to be small enough, I'm going to try it. If it doesn't work out, great, I'm going to try again. I'm going to change it. I'm going to change some ways of this. So it's the continuous content and iterate often that is very essential. These are just some 3D game examples of worlds that are built in 3D Hive. So you can see there's very cool looking worlds you can actually build.
Are these built from scratch, or you use different objects?
Many different. It's like Lego. Basically, there's characters, avatars. I'll just show you some shots. There's maps. There's effects, environmental effects. There's behaviors. You can actually pick and choose. You can just assemble them very quickly. And these are full 3D worlds, so you can actually have up to 40 students using it at the same time. And they can be multiplayer. There are team roles you can define. You can define how teams interact. There's lots of cooperation built in as well. There's cooperation, collaboration, competition. Many types of games and game modes can be played using this kind of stuff. We're taking this to the next step, and this is, some of the other things that we're actually just adding to the platform. So I'm sorry. We're going to do things like, we allow teachers and students to create games and actually play it using many different types of devices. So we support the iPad, Android, Mac, Windows, etc. We also allow them to communicate using Bluetooth and things like that, so they can even create games that don't utilize the 3D world. So you can have games which are actually location-based inside the school because using Bluetooth markers. We don't support GPS at this point in time, but that's something that we
So what are the games published as?
It's an applet.
Okay. Java.
Yeah. Not Java. I'm saying applet because it's like an application, but it runs within our environment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so your environment has to be installed
correct, yes.
on the device.
Correct. As of now. And our environment is free.
And runs across all devices.
Huh?
Runs across all
Across
devices.
devices, and it's free across all devices.
Is it browser based?
No, it's not browser based. So it's a client. It has to be.
So,
Yes, it's a client. Okay. So these are some of the other things that we are building in this Web 2.0 collaboration platforms. This is live. There is actually already live lesson management tools, so teachers can do things like, I want to lock everybody, I want to make all the screens black, I want to talk to everybody, I want to take everybody here, I want to give them freebies, or I want to help them, reward them in the game and things like that. All those things you can already do. We are also building we also have built tools that allow teachers to share what they are doing with other teachers. And so, again, this is something we are doing as it's a platform-wide approach. It's sort of literally we were trying to do like we were trying to be the YouTube of games, and that's the aspect we were taking here. The entire platform is cloud-based. Like the server side of this is entirely cloud-based. We are working with Microsoft Azure Cloud. We are also hosted locally in Singapore on the Intel data center. Plus, we're also on the Amazon cloud. Done this. These are some of the things that we capture in terms of evaluation and assessment. We actually capture all student activity, everything you do in the editor as well as in the games, as well as on the forums and on the online community thing. We actually look at team collaboration and cooperation, things like how often are you talking to people, how often are you sharing information, media, how much often are you contributing. We are obviously looking at the evaluation piece from teachers itself, so that's also a big piece. We allow teachers to sort of keep track of what lesson plans they have around what content that is being built or that is being used, or content that is generated. It's basically generated around which lesson plan, so other teachers can find it and index it easily. On the other side, we also have things like there are self-reflection tools. So there are places in the game where you can actually just press a button and record sort of some text, just like a note, why you're doing what you're doing, why you chose to do what you're doing. So, and that sort of self-reflection can be used later. There can be things like annotations and bookmarks. So I may say, okay, I want to remember this, and I want this to be into my web profile so that I want to look at this video, even when I'm not in the game. I don't have to come back to the game to see this video or this picture. We obviously do all the game-based assessments, so things like how well did you perform, did you find all the objectives, did you solve all the questions. We have things like multiple choice questions, fill in the blanks. There's many different kinds of assessment tools that's built into the game engine itself. And so we also track your performance on those things. That helps us derive statistics of all types. And teachers can also have sort of things like what is the recommended learning objective and things like that. So you can have things that a teacher does something on math, and the teacher says this is something that can be used for English language learning or something like that.
In this evaluation block, are you allowing teachers to create their own customized dashboards of the districts?
Well, okay, so the way that it works is we think that there are two different things. There is the outside the game assessment. Yes, you can. So there's your own checks you can actually mark, and you can use different graphing tools to demonstrate relative performance of the students or teams, however you want to do that. But in the game itself, what we've done is we've actually identified that the most efficient way of watching what's happening in the game is in a minimap format. So we have like an overview where you see all the characters and where they move and everything, and you have a time slider. So for that, we don't have multiple ways. We think that's already the most efficient way of sort of keeping track of what's going on in the game. You can go to any one point in time, you'll see everybody where everybody is, what they are doing. You can actually track their performance like that. And that way you are easily able to see patterns. And this is something that's actually not being recognized right now. So like in the Predator game, a teacher can easily find out, okay, if the zebras stay together, they're more likely to survive than if the zebras blow up. And they're able to show that just, things like that. The herd just goes in different directions. The predators will be able to pick them up easily. If the herd stays together and works as a cohesive whole, and it's much harder for the predators to do it.
So if I'm right now the teachers can't really fiddle around with that part.
That part they can't. No, I don't think even in the future we will.
No, but what the teachers want.
You can do things like I want to see the whole class, I want to see one student. I can do those kinds of adjustments. But I can't see different views. You don't let them see 3D view and things like that.
Okay, and can the technical team define which nodes, within the game, where am I supposed to capture the information?
Oh, we are capturing everything. Sure. Because it's cloud-based. We capture everything. We log the whole thing. Sorry, we log the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't exclude anything. And so the teacher can pretty much see anything they want from it. Okay, so idea is we don't know what the content is. Since we don't know what the content is, we don't know what to assess. So the teacher has to figure out what is the assessment matrix. So therefore, we've just sort of enabled the tool to let her sort of figure out, or let him figure out what he wants to see, what he wants to see. Right? Okay, this is very funny, and it sort of sounds strange, but actually one of the things that we've seen is that our platform is very low cost. It doesn't cost much. You don't have a monthly subscription. You don't have per student seat per seat license. You don't actually have any startup cost. You can get all the developer tools for free. So those things are there.
Because government is funding you.
No. Well, okay, partially true.
That's how even I started off. I was going to first ask you what is the way of monetizing this thing.
Okay, so it's partially true, but not entirely true. Government funded us for this school. Yeah, the first school. We have 400 other schools that we are actually catering to now, and the government doesn't fund for that. So how we monetize this, we actually went back and really did a lot of soul searching. And again, this is something very contentious, especially in this organization, with this kind of a conference. It's sort of very. When I say I don't charge for content, I really mean I don't charge for content. Content has no price. Even the content that's built already in the platform, all the 3D graphics tools, sounds, we don't charge for it. What we charge for is a cost that the school will incur, whether they take this platform from us or from somebody else. No matter how it happens, they will incur that cost. So what we charge for are things like bandwidth, infrastructure, server time, for the assessment part of it, the capturing of the information, the data that's availability, storage of space and stuff like that. So things like that. So those we call value-added services. Okay. We charge for value-added services only. And the idea is, even if they took an open source game platform like ours and they implemented it, they would still need a server. They will still need maintenance. They would still need support. They would still need. So it's like a fair use concept.
So let's say someone creates in an XYZ school, someone creates a game or some content. Is that content accessible to other schools?
Okay, so this is the way it works. Somebody creates a content, the content is with that person. They can take that content, they can email it to you, or they can share it with you on a thumb drive or whatever. It's free. That there's no charge.
I think what you meant is there a gallery kind of.
Yeah.
You want to access the gallery, you need to be subscribing to our portal. Right? So the concept here is that the gallery is something that the teacher will use, typically. Right? So again, because that actually is space, this is real SAN storage, right? That you have to have, and there can be a very large amount of storage that you're talking about when you start talking about putting games up on the those are the things that we charge for.
Is there a marketplace between schools where they train content?
Yeah, so schools that are subscribed to our, they have free access. So again, I won't say it's a marketplace, it's a community. They can share. Schools are allowed to monetize their content as well. So we have tools in place that allow, if I have a math lesson that I'm really, really proud of and I want other schools to buy it rather than take it for free, I can sell it to them. So then we take the facilitation fee from there. But most of the time, it's like schools mostly just share anything that they have to pay. We don't charge for that content. But what we see is that this still, I'm like, if I really look at it, I've actually taken 3 or 4 steps back. So from a game company point of view, or from any other educational publisher, so we are very different from a catalog learning provider or anything like that. Our cost per student is nothing. In fact, if you don't, even our subscription cost for the portal is actually pay per use. So only when you have a game, when you put it online, when you use it in class, when you, so the way that we've structured it, it's on our SQL structure is cloud-based SQL. So there is no database that we maintain for a school. When the school starts a game, we create a database for them. When that session finishes, we kill that database. So if they're using 1,600 people in one day, we will charge for 1,600 in one day. If they use nothing for the whole year, we won't charge for it. And that's how it works. It's not even something that we're not taking a subscription on a regular basis. So there's lots of cool ways in which it sort of works with existing systems. So schools have integrated this with their current LMSs and stuff like that. That works. It works with there's a lot of sort of like CCA activities and stuff like that. That is integrated and used. It works with project-based work. It's also portfolio-based. Many different ways in which it works. It's a very open system, so teachers and students use, like students and teachers both use it for, and school can use it for many different ways, for many different things. So that way, it's very flexible, and it's basically it's a lot of fun, and it's pretty much anywhere you can sort of play it on the iPhone. We are thinking sometime in the future we will allow students to subscribe to the service from home, so they'll just get a catalog of games to play. We haven't really figured that out. Partially because that really is sort of, again, something that we want to step away from the whole catalog learning model. We don't want to bring that into this system. So again, it's again something that we are sort of really looking at how we can sort of solve this issue. So this, up to this, we are open to collaboration. So we're sort of really looking for partners all across. Yeah. Sorry.
Another question on the same lines as what you were talking about, right? So what are the market forces here that is driving a school to adopt game-based learning?
Okay, so I have that. Is my thumb inside? Is there, right? Is this? Okay, so, okay.
Yeah.
Singapore has the highest index of penetration, obviously 200, almost 100%. Everybody has internet at home. Sometimes it's just something. We have internet at home, we have internet in the office, we have internet on the move. 4G, 3G is very cheap. Internet is very pervasive. Everybody has smartphones. Most of these kids have smartphones, right? Everybody has, a lot have tablets, many have laptops. So it's very high proportion, and this is getting more and more higher proportion. Games in Singapore are endemic. It's, I have seen, I've seen like, 16-year-old boy and girl sitting in a restaurant, or McDonald's or something. They're supposed to be on a date or something like that. She's looking deep into her phone, and he's looking.
Taking a second life.
It's the death of romance, right?
Liking each other on Facebook.
Yeah. You can see this whole place is like that. You actually walk around, you'll see some very interesting things, right? In terms of, and so it's becoming very pervasive. And so the new digital media space is becoming very pervasive. And one of the things that the government here is realizing is, and I think this is happening everywhere in the world, that they can't stop it. There's no reverse. There's no sort of disengage. Let's go back the other way. Where Japan tried to do that. I don't know if you know this. Japan is the only country in the world that's currently actually pulling back in education reform. So they're going back into the instructionist learning system.
But they also had a huge crisis, right?
Yeah, huge.
250,000 people having mental.
Which might be nothing to do with new media. In my opinion, I mean, like, Japanese society, it's probably nothing to do with anything to do with new media. Anyways, so here there's a lot of pressure in terms of that change, definitely. There's a
Pressure on the government, you mean?
No, on the
From the government.
okay, this pressure. Actually, it's all-rounded pressure. So, bear with me. The parents are very stressed. The kids won't get into good schools, right? Teachers are very stressed. Parents get stressed and get physical or angry or complain, right? Schools are very stressed because there is a system of assessment and ranking. If a school is consistently doing bad, parents don't want to send their kids to that place, then the school may lose its funding. School cannot actually close down because this is government run. The management is going to lose. Next day you're sitting in Jurong, the refinery, or something like that. So there's a lot of stress in that sense. The government is very stressed because they've had really bad election here this year. I'm just kidding. But there's pressure all around. There is, there have been talks, there have been parliamentary debates where the if they don't do something to ease the stress in education, maybe, some people are, Singapore needs population rates to go up. Some people are saying that population rates will go up if you make PSLE easier. Because parents are scared, that I have a kid, I have to teach him for 6 years, get him into a good secondary school. That kind of thing. So that kind of thing is pretty prevalent here. So there is a lot of push towards reform, education reform, and so that is a very active thing. The other thing is Singapore has actually got no natural resources. They don't have any land. They have there's no competitive advantage per se. They don't have, they don't even have access to open seas like New Zealand, and they don't have pastures. They definitely don't have any minerals or anything like that. They don't even have their own water. They import water from Malaysia. Singapore actually has a lot of pressure to keep ahead of everybody else. They are a very rich nation, and right now they are a very rich nation. Singapore actually has a bigger economy than Malaysia, but they have to stay there, right? It takes a huge deterrent to keep their sort of neighbors at bay. So it's not like India-Pakistan situation. Definitely there's no animosity there as such, but there's a huge amount of dependence. Indonesia stopped selling Singapore sand because Singapore was taking sand, dumping into the ocean, making more land. Indonesia was scared that Singapore will, yeah, I'm like, how much sand did they buy? But Indonesia, literally, this is the kind of thing, right? Indonesia stopped selling sand to Singapore. Selling sand, come on. No more sand for you, bad word. It's strange. They buy water from Malaysia on a regular basis. So every time something happens, right, Malaysians start shouting, we'll stop selling you water. Then you see you will all die of thirst. And there is actually a contingency plan that if Malaysia ever turns the tap off, they'll go and attack Malaysia. Because they can't survive. There isn't that much water catchment. It rains a lot, but not that much.
But I still don't understand how all these pressures translate into a push for game-based learning.
Not game-based learning in particular, but education reform. So game-based learning is one of the things that they started doing with, so there are 15 future schools. 5 started. Of those 5, Canberra was one of the first lot. It did extremely well. And so they picked that up and they decided, okay, I'm going to spread this around. And so, because again, I think it's also a lot to do with our modeling and things like that. I know that there are some companies that wanted to charge like $25 per student per month, which in Singapore doesn't sound like much. But you're thinking from a government point of view, for 500,000 students, $25 a month is a lot. So a lot of the good innovations never actually went out because of issues like that. So one of the things that the reason that they picked up games is I think partially because of us, because we had a very sort of open, 5,000 users. There's going to be a lot of services consumption. So if we can just charge for that, that's good. So, but because I think it's partially possible because we know our customer. There is like 400 schools here. It's one big customer, and so I think that is one of those advantages that we have.
The reason I'm asking is to try to contrast it with the dynamics in India and try to understand how some of these changes can be accelerated in the Indian plan.
I think it can definitely. I mean, what you need is somebody like a Tata or a big telco to provide cloud services on a pay-per-use basis to you, and then you need to build services on top of that you provide to your customers. That's how it works. Because if you are paying a monthly subscription cost, then you can't charge a pay-per-use cost for your schools, right? So you need somebody with that kind of vision. I think nowadays it's becoming like that. So I don't know. At least I don't know. We have Microsoft in India as well, right? Azure. So Azure is
and very good business.
Very
The
good.
entire is free, so we can experiment for almost that year.
Yeah. So you build something on Azure, and then Azure also has, so one of the things that we do is that we only have one server running all the time. As schools come in, and we have like a booking system, so you can't just switch it on. So teachers have to book this in advance, the server space.
Oh.
Because these teachers know, I'm going to teach a class tomorrow, so you'll switch this on for tomorrow. And so what we will do is that so Azure has this concept where I have one hot machine, and that can act as a template, and as my usage goes up, it keeps adding new hot machines. So that's really useful.
So you said you don't store data after the session ends, right?
No.
So you don't have, so the chance for doing long time analysis on how a child is growing. Day one, this will be how his understanding of let's say that.
So that's again one of those services that we provide as a value add service. So we have data. For most teachers, we give you at the end of your session, we give you a export file that you can bring into an LMS. But for schools, in fact, especially private institutions, a lot of private institutions that use our system as well. And for private institutions, we provide a service where they can just subscribe on this is the teacher's account. And on the teacher's account, we let them track their classroom.
But it won't be much data to store, right? I mean, not the actual video.
That is why it's just the teachers. So it's a special service you can buy, and it's really it's few dollars. Everything can be done is very cost effective in that sense.
No, because I, for instance, purely as an education company, I'd be extremely interested even if whether teachers want that data or not. If you have data from 100,000 students, how are they using different games, what's working, what's not working. That's something that companies learn by trial and error over months or years.
Yes.
So if you have that kind of data, I mean, I was just curious to know.
Oh yeah, we have been.
That's why I asked,
good point.
we got notes within the games as well.
Yeah.
And we just tracking some metadata and just storing it somewhere.
No, we store for the live session we store everything.
Yeah, but
what he's saying is we don't track it over time.
So that's my challenge as well. We actually have 2 million plays on our thing,
Right.
but all schools want the data to be kept internally.
Yeah.
So even though we have 2 million plays, I can't do anything with it. In your case, since it's on cloud,
Yeah,
you have,
but we can't. It's the Singapore government data. We just can't.
Isn't the
Because private
government
schools-
interested in doing some sort of research?
So they do. So they can, again, so right now we haven't been tracking it. Like we've never actually looked at data in that sense. We typically think about, okay, if either a teacher is not thinking about it and therefore not using it, or a teacher is interested in it and then therefore is willing to pay for a small service. You know, $2 a month is like $24 a year. $24 a year, you will track all your data for you and you keep it. Otherwise, you just because again, we only have one hot machine, so we just dump everything out data at the end of the day.
actually this kind of data can be actually used by universities to do a large number of things.
We are actually working with a large number of universities and research institutions. We're starting to work now, who are now getting interested in working with us to do research on actual research on motivators. So we have, Pamela Cato, remission. Pamela Cato, your team remission?
Yeah.
Cancer again.
yeah, I think
So the principal investigator there, the CDO, and she's working with us in the next couple months to do sort of psychological impacts on anything students. We're working with Ernest Adams, we're working with Open University in London, Future Labs, London Knowledge Lab, we're working with SMU here, there's several SUTV, so there are several universities, the research institutions that we're working with, so to start tracking that. Yeah, that's so far. The story so far.
Can you have a view of how the game was created?
Yeah, sure. Mike? How is the game created? No, do you have the editors, right?
We need to take off now, but we cancel.
Sure.
human.
Okay, so basically this.
I have a lot more things within my head.
I think we're done. I'll show you. So this is a PWSM file. This is the file that we create. You can actually share this file, the PWSM file. And it basically opens this up to show you. This is the virtual world, the actual 3D world. The entire tool, the editing tool is actually in 2D. You can double click on it. So you don't need to learn 3D visualization or spatial intelligence to understand how to create this world. We have these many tiles that are already created. You can use this very large library of tiles, and you can actually attach any kind of media to these objects. It's very easy to split and anything. So we actually call this stage-wise. This is a stage. Think about it like a play. This is the stage, right? So this is the stage. Then you have characters, avatars. So now you go to avatar. So your avatar is like your characters or actors, essentially. So these are all the actors. And you have both, you can create customizable ones, or you can have non-customizable ones. Non-customizable ones are the ones that are already created. So these are all animals. This is a primary school library. Secondary school library is more realistic looking. And so you have all these characters that are already created. You can just choose any one character, and you can set settings for these characters as well. And there are many different kinds of things that you can do. You can say, okay, I want them to fly, I want them to be this strong, I want them to be able to kill somebody, build something. Can they die? Can they swim? How big are they? Are they a giant or a dwarf or something like that? You can set those things. Then we have something called game settings. Some of the game settings are things like, is there going to be stamina, food, health, hunger? So things like you can think about in terms of scripting. Again, so the concept here is you can actually start with a very simple game, and as you keep doing, you can actually make very, very involved games. Also, then there are logic objects. You can have, so logic is like a script. So you have your stage, you have your sets, then you have your script. Sorry, these are props. So all the things that are in your game. So this is a pretty big inventory, but you can actually have, just open a new item. So there are many different types of props you can make. Consumable, go to consumable, open item library. So there's a whole huge library of items that are available in the item library. Things that you can choose, elements, objects of different types. You can actually choose any one and say, okay, this is in my game, and this is the property for this, and things like that. You can just set that.
What's the engine they use?
It's our own proprietary. Okay. Then you have a trigger library. Triggers are like script. So in a play you have scripts. It's like this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. You can actually define a script, and the scripts that you can define are very, very. We've got many, many different types of scripts. So you're creating a new one, right? So you can have things like something gets born into the world, something moves in the world, something gets modified. Is this an objective? Is there a goal in the world? And so all of those things as well. And of those, there are also multiple options. See, the idea is you can create something like Counter-Strike or Dota, or like Old MacDonald had a farm.
Yeah.
Some very simple to very complicated, depending on what level you want to work at, what kind of look you want it to give, and things like that. And once you're done with it, you can just preview. What this does is it then just goes, and you need to find it on this, you can preview.
This is currently being done for which age groups?
We're using it from primary 3, which is 10-year-old, 9-year-olds, and all the way to 16, 18-year-olds.
It will go on by the government, right? So if you have to implement something based on this
The content
geography, not content.
The system is owned by us.
Oh, it's owned by you.
Everything that happens in the system is owned by the company.
So what about if you have to use certain modules from our system to build a new product?
Yeah, I can no problem.
Okay.
I can use the same, I mean, these libraries like I'm going to application in India or something like that. Those are things as well I can do. So now what the system is doing is now it's given the three, he's made the game in 2D. And now what the system does is goes and interprets it. Basically it's an interpreter. It'll actually see this, the whole thing, and it'll actually create now a 3D world based on whatever is there. For advanced users, we also have the ability for you to tweak this. So I can add things to the library, I can change the tile or the map and things like that. But those I think are like very small portion of the users who do this. It's a full-fledged 3D world that has been produced from what we actually built there. Yeah. You actually give him very big speed and very high jump. Okay. Yeah, so right now, these are settings that you can actually put, the physical settings of the characters and things in the world. You can actually play around with it and do very new things.
Is this application constantly like fetching information from the internet, or is it completely like a native application?
It works as a single player on the device, or it can work on the cloud as a multiplayer as well.
So what is there on the server and what is there on the device?
Okay, so what we do is we actually keep a simulation on the server and we keep a ghost on the device. So if you're playing single player, the simulation and ghost is on your machine. But if you're playing a multiplayer, then the simulation is actually in the server and ghosts are in the machine. So basically what happens is you can only see what's around you, you don't see what's happening in the rest of the world. So that's why it creates an efficiency in terms of when I have 40 students playing together, it doesn't lag. It's like I can build a virtual world or something like that. So this is a gamelet, okay? And this gamelet is created by one of the Chinese teachers to introduce all the characters in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms that they have in their lesson. So basically you have Hao Gai's armor or Lusu's sword and Luke's son, I don't know, I can't know his name. Very tough. But you know, so you have different characters. You basically go around in teams and try to find the entire set for any one of the characters. So this is the gamelet. It's not actually a game, right? By making a gamelet, you have to completely sort of set aside that whole question of how difficult it is to make, how expensive is it to make. It is a 5-minute gamelet, and it took him like 15-20 minutes to make it. So you can actually do much more in terms of learning and teaching, and it really opens up a very large variety of content that you could do with this kind of thing. So because you're building, like this is literally, I know this isn't World of Warcraft, it's pretty good quality in terms of 3D game, especially if a teacher is being able to create this. And this is like a mini map. You can see there's many different options, many things that you can do. There's chat, there's teamwork. Then we also have a teacher's console. Teacher can do things like pick up an avatar, drop it somewhere else, cause it to rain, throw down thunder, or burn things, put things on fire. Teachers have a lot of fun in this as well. There's no objectives. Skip. Thanks. So you can also build these games and you can export these and you can play these on the application is probably going to be played on the iPad or the Android machine. All the other things you can do. So it's like what we try to sort of market this as it's like the suite for games, any kind of game in the platform. This is the ultimate platform for that.